It's Kevin Pinner from Sankei Shimbun. Yesterday was the 66th anniversary of Teddy Roosevelt's grandson leading a coup of Mohammad Mossadegh for the CIA. And Madeleine Albright acknowledged this when she was Secretary of State in 2000. I'm wondering, how do you see that kind of maybe as a way to reconcile our relationship with Iran, admitting past mistakes as a strategy in diplomacy, especially in international organizations? Do you think that strategy failed? Is there any value to admitting our mistakes in dealing with Iran?
Yeah. There have been scholarly articles published in the last year based on declassified information by the United States government that has helped to give a more accurate and fuller picture of what happened in 1953 with Mossadegh. Mossadegh was not removed by the CIA. Mossadegh was removed by the religious establishment, the political leadership, and the military. The CIA was invited in on the first attempt, which failed. And after that, the CIA was no longer involved. And if you go and read the collected works of Ayatollah Khomeini, he talks about in 1953 and makes no reference to the CIA. It was something that was done by the religious establishment, by the military establishment, and by the political establishment. And so those who are interested should take a look at the intelligence that was declassified and the scholarly articles that have been published that undercut this narrative, which I hear often from Foreign Minister Zarif, one of the many falsehoods he spreads, that the United States was responsible for the... Mossadegh was overthrown by the religious establishment, the military, and the political leaders. They were the ones that overthrew Mossadegh. And we have declassified a range of materials that speak to this. The current religious leaders don't want to remind people that the religious establishment at the time supported his overthrow. I would take it even farther than just 53. I would start at 1905. In 1905, there was a constitutional revolution in Iran, and it was an effort to try to get a more representative government. Over those last 110 years, we have seen the Iranian people make strides at a truly representative government. I would say that over the last 40 years, it will be remembered as a valley. When you look at the social freedoms that the Iranian people enjoyed prior to this regime, they remember that, even though so many of the people who are alive today were born after the revolution. And that's why you see in Iran, the protest movement with the most energy is the women. And that's where you see a lot of people protesting the mandatory wearing of the hijab. And the regime responds, but with brutal tactics. And so we recently had Secretary Pompeo meet with one of the leaders of the women's movement, who now lives in the United States, to show that we support them. And the regime does a very good job of marginalizing organized opposition. And this is a regime that's willing to kill its own citizens in order to stay in power. They even kill environmentalists who protest clean air and clean water, or even protecting wildlife. There was a Canadian Iranian who founded the Persian Wildlife Heritage Organization. They jailed him, and he's dead. This is how the regime, even when we're talking about something very basic like clean air and clean water, or just protecting wildlife, the regime's response is murder. It's a very dark regime. It's a very brutal regime. It's a corrupt religious mafia that has lost the support of its own people. The one thing that this regime fears more than anything else is one free